Welcome to us consuming things and telling you about them.
Today we're going to be trying a few different kinds of Konjac jelly. We have a large one from Everydays. We have some small ones here from Boiling Point, their QQ series. And then we have some Japanese ones from Orihiro. We have 5, 3, and 1 flavor respectively. And we're going to see how they all stack up against each other. We're going to be doing short reviews and finding out which one tastes the best, which one has the best mouthfeel, and which one has the least bad ingredients, as well as a couple of other things, and then picking our favorites and letting you know about them so that maybe if you want to try one of these, they're all off of Amazon, then you can give it a shot. Neither of us have very much experience with jelly products, specifically Konjac jelly, which is different from animal gelatin. It comes from the corm of a flowering plant in East Asia and is actually really common. If you see those little jelly cups that are the Asian-style jelly cups, those are probably Konjac, even if they don't tell you, rather than gelatin like you would find, say, Jell-O originally being made out of.
So Konjac comes from one specific plant, right, and the corm of it specifically, which is this tuberous structure. Interesting.
You got it.
Up first, we have Sweet Jelly C, made by Everydays. It is grape flavor, 5 calories per packet.
Apparently.
Yeah, and
and extra vitamin C.
Yeah, they put vitamin C, which is ascorbic acid, I assume.
Yeah,
it's not
ascorbic acid.
Which is not vitamin C, and gluten-free.
So let's just take a quick look at the ingredients before we dive in. I've got my package. He's got his package. It does say to squeeze it up to break up the jelly before slurping it. It contains erythritol and sucralose as its sweeteners. It does have grape extract in it, Konjac powder, and some gellan gum to assist in the gumminess, as well as xanthan gum to assist in the gumminess. Interestingly, it has more grape flavor in it than red grape extract. I'm not sure what that's for. So, let's see how they taste.
Fascinating. It reminds me of aloe vera beverages. It is very smooth, yeah. Despite it being lumpy.
Yeah, it's like the individual pieces are broken up, but those pieces themselves are very silky. I feel like you can really feel the difference between the Konjac and the gellan gum, and the xanthan gum are like more liquidy, and then in that liquidy surroundings is the Konjac itself. I immediately taste the sucralose. The astringency of the grape does come through, and it's pretty nice, but the first thing that hits me before the grape flavor is actually the sucralose. Even though there's less of it, it's a very recognizable flavor, and it's pretty strong.
Sucralose is kind of in its own category of sweeteners when it comes to flavoring. It's got its own kind of astringency that dries out the mouth.
Okay, next up is the Boiling Point Dragon Fruit. QQ, I think, is the series name. These ones actually have sugar and fructose and more fructose and fruit juice and inulin. They have carrageenan and locust bean gum as additional gumminesses. So weirdly, the passion fruit one, which we'll get to next, has basil seed in it. But this one doesn't. So the passion fruit one has the most ingredients, weirdly enough. The other ones has fewer. Xanthan gum, locust bean gum, sodium citrate, inulin. So it has more ingredients, as well as a little bit of sugar, but still not very much sugar in there. And this one says to tear off the breech, slowly squeeze the jelly out, and enjoy.
Chewy. This is incredibly gelatinous. It held together very well. A little too well, but there's this burst of flavor at the beginning, and then it just kind of fades.
It doesn't taste very much like dragon fruit either. Like a little bit, but I've had a good amount of dragon fruit, and it's a much stronger flavor. Very watery too, but this is like a little bit, just a tiny bit of dragon fruit. The seeds are very interesting. That really changes things up. Dragon fruit itself is also seedy, so it kind of fits.
Much less sweet than the first one. A little bit more complex in flavor. I kind of like that one. What do you think?
I think that it's pretty good. I feel like the extra gums in it, like the xanthan and the locust bean gum especially, I think, give it a extra meaty texture that I don't know that I like because it's just that much more dense and chewy.
Right. I didn't think it needed the extra gum. I thought it would be perfectly gelatinous on its own. I assume we're going to continue experiencing that same texture as we go through these flavors.
I'm going to try to mash this one up and see if it gets closer to the other one, because I didn't do that for the last package.
Right. So after the dragon fruit, up next we have passion fruit, also made by Boiling Point. 1.1 grams of natural dietary fiber.
It's got all sorts of food safety certifications on the back.
ISO 22000. That's a high exposure.
It's the International Standards Organization.
Yes, yes.
Whoa. So this one is much more recognizable as a flavor, much more passion fruit than the other one was dragon fruit. Passion fruit tends to be, I think, an easy flavor for people to do. I've had it a few times where passion fruit's usually done well. Definitely mash it up. It fixes the texture problem, I think. This one's definitely better than the dragon fruit.
Yeah, I think much better in every way. I much prefer this one, the dragon fruit. The dragon fruit was a little bit too mellow for my liking, especially for how thick and condensed it was.
Next up is plum. I'm curious to see what kind of plum it is because the packaging is green. The plum picture is like green and yellow. It says it contains real plum juice, but there are many plum varieties. And I don't know which one exactly they picked here. So we'll see what it tastes like. I expect this to be somewhat sour. So we'll see if that's true.
This one has 1.2 grams of natural dietary fiber.
More fibrous.
And surprisingly, a lot softer. Let's dig in. Holy moly. That's not the variety that I expected.
That is a flavor. This ain't your American.
No, this ain't your grandpappy's plum, which is good. I mean, it kind of tastes like you just bit into the plum.
It's got a nice sourness to it. It is an Asian plum style. It's reminiscent. I've had like Chinese plum things. I think this is a Chinese brand. And it definitely has that specific kind of plum flavor. So if you're familiar with the Chinese style plum, then it'll be very familiar for you. I think this is, probably my favorite out of these three. I like the passion fruit, but the plum has that uniqueness and interestingness to it, and it is just as strong, unlike the dragon fruit that doesn't have enough flavor to it. So I say that takes my vote. Nice complexity to the flavor too. You can definitely consider it, sit and think about it while you're chewing, which is nice. So that I'd say go for that one. I mean, these come as a mixed pack, so you can get them all at the same time.
I agree in that this one's my favorite. The flavor was the most complex and the most bold. There was a hint of savoriness in that variety of plum, which I'm not used to. And so it was a very pleasant and novel experience. Much enjoyed.
All right, so before we move on to the next brand, Boiling Point on their package says that you should freeze them for better flavor. So I have taken the liberty of preparing some frozen versions, and we'll try that now.
Same order. We've got dragon fruit, passion fruit, and plum.
Frozen. Oh, it's cold. I mean, expectedly. I knew that would happen.
Ooh. Better frozen. Although maybe if it had a little bit of defrosting time, it does defrost in the mouth eventually.
So the dragon fruit still just has very little flavor. It promised better flavor being frozen. I don't know if the flavor's better. Texture's definitely different. Very interesting. I think it's worth trying it frozen. But the dragon fruit, at least, still just doesn't come through with the density of flavor profile, if you know what I mean.
I think the dragon fruit is slightly better in that it's not just the texture, but I appreciate the dragon fruit flavor a little bit more when frozen. I'm not sure if I'm just tricking myself into thinking that the flavor's better or not, but for me it was all around better experience. Now, the frozen passion fruit. Oh yeah. Frozen passion fruit, way better. I do agree with you. I enjoy the texture much more, but there's something about, I don't know if it's the cold or what, or if it's like some actual magical change in the cognac itself that makes the flavor pop a little bit more when it's frozen.
I concur. I think that so far this is standing out. Texture's kind of even with the frozen ones, but definitely flavor with the frozen specifically. Let's see how the plum stacks.
What? It's a bit salty. Maybe that's what I was tasting when I said savory.
This one has thawed a bit. But I think about the same as the non-frozen one. Very, very similar. It's held its flavor rather than improving its flavor. But the texture's a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So I think we go frozen, frozen, and then down to non-frozen, and then over to the side. Like, that's my ranking here. If I'm going 1-to-1 in order, the frozen plum just barely edges out the non-frozen plum, which is a little bit better than the non-frozen passion fruit. But the frozen passion fruit is like on top.
I'm in total agreement. There's something confusing about the frozen plum for me. The passion fruit is just so much more pleasant frozen. So yeah, very much like that, of just like passion fruit wins over frozen passion fruit wins over frozen plum over passion fruit. And then these are kind of even. I would still say the frozen dragon fruit's better.
I agree. Yeah. All right, so next we're going to move on to the Ordi Hero brand, and our next one is going to be grape. And so I actually want to go back and taste this grape to get a direct comparison with this grape and just see how they, remind ourselves how this tastes, and then see how that one goes. This one is sweetened with some sugar as well as acesulfame potassium and sucralose. So this is the first time we've seen acesulfame potassium in these. Not my favorite sweetener, but it's okay. And then the ever-present sucralose. But then it also has a couple different kinds of sugar in it. Flavorings and real fruit juice as well.
It's not so much important about which sweeteners you choose. It's more important about the ratios and balance between them and the rest of the ingredients.
You don't really want to taste the sweetener's flavor, right? Like sweeteners, they all have flavors. Even sugar has a flavor. So it should support the flavor of the food. It shouldn't just be this weird outlying, like creepy uncle at the party kind of a thing, You if you are going to taste it, like with monk fruit, you're going to taste monk fruit. Make sure that it's not too much and that it balances. That's why it's so important to mix different sweeteners, like with monk fruit, erythritol, stevia. If you balance those just right, then you don't really taste them individually. It's just sweet. And that's a much better way to do it. So that's mostly what we're kind of running into here.
All right, so we're giving ourselves a refresher of the first Sweet Jelly C grape flavor.
They tell you specifically to squeeze out a little bit and then bite it off. And they say, don't suck it.
Oh. Okay.
So it's because there was this whole issue with cognac and like choking hazards where kids would suck it up and then get it lodged in their throat and stuff. So you'd really want to be pushing it out and chewing it, not like sucking it as if it's a drink. Okay. So immediately I notice, one, it's closer to the texture of this one than it is to these. I think when I looked at the ingredients, it looked like it didn't have as many of the additional gums in it. Flavor-wise, it's very much grape. And it doesn't lead with the sweetener flavor, like this one does. And it has a very lasting astringency, a grape astringency that really builds. It doesn't just sit there. Right. It doesn't come in first and then disappear. like I'm still feeling it building in my mouth, which is very much a sour grape kind of an experience with these, especially the darker grapes. Really get that astringency. I think it's a better grape flavor, and I like that I don't taste the fake sugars quite as much. I do still taste them, but it's more of an aftertaste than right in the front.
I'm in total agreement. It's both a very sweet and sour grape. Yeah, balanced is what comes to mind. It's just everything works together. Everything else just kind of like is in support of the grape and just lets it shine. I'm not knowledgeable enough in grapes to know like what variety that would be.
If you've had anything grape flavored from Japan, it's that same flavor. They definitely are playing. They're drawing from the same playbook. It's a good flavor. It is less intense of a grape flavor than this one is, but it's a better flavor. Texture-wise, I think it's better than these, the unfrozen ones. Not as good as the frozen ones.
I was kind of surprised by the texture because it's still really dense and compact, like the ones that had all of those additional gums, but it doesn't have those. Perhaps it has less water. That's a good point. All right, up next we have apuru. I was expecting it to say ringo, but sometimes it's cool to speak English.
Give that a nose. Wow. Very iconic Japanese apple scent. It's got apple juice in it. It tastes like apples. It's that sweet and slightly sour apple flavor. I like it. A little bit more astringency actually than I expected on the back end. Very nice upfront apple flavor though. Mecha apuru.
This is a novel experience for me because I haven't had any Japanese apple varieties. So it's interesting to see that that balance of sweet and sour. Just like the grape, a very nice balance of sweetness and sourness.
I think so far for me, the apple is just behind the grape in terms of preference for flavor of these ones.
They're about tied for me. I'm not sure which I prefer. All right, up next we have kanji that I cannot read.
Shiro Momo. White peach. I'm excited for this. Out of all of them, this is the one that I'm most excited for because I love Momo. I love that flavor, the Japanese peach flavor. And so we'll see if this holds up to my expectations.
It's a warm kind of sweetness. Very loving, caressing. Contrasting in relation to the boldness of the grape and the apple. This one might be my favorite.
It has a subtleness to it that is different from it just being weak. So when I compare it like to the dragon fruit is weak in flavor. But this is subtle. So it's less strong than, say, the passion fruit over here. But it has the complexity of flavor to it and that softness that you're talking about. So it sits really well in the mouth. And I'm actually surprised that the sweetness is balanced as well as it is, given the acesulfame potassium and the sucralose that are in here. But I think that they managed to balance that with the actual sugar, because it does contain actual sugar and glucose, and balancing that, the fruit juice, the glucose, the acesulfame potassium, the sucralose, all of those, none of them are too much. So I think it works really well. This is a pretty good peach flavor. It's not as good as some of the ones that I have had, but it is pretty good. And I think that it definitely is a contender for the top spot for me right now in terms of just enjoyable flavor. It's having a tough time with this plum one, the frozen plum, but it's holding its own.
Speak softly and carry a big peach, I believe the saying goes. All right, up next we have Moscato. Oh, Muscat. Okay. Another new experience for me. Oh, no.
Wind, stay away.
I don't have much to say for this one. It's just really good.
Muscat is a foundational flavor in Japanese candy. It is very different from the kind of regular grape. That's this dark varietal. I think muscats are a wine grape. They are uniquely flavored. Like, you can immediately tell when you have muscat, you know it's a muscat. They've got a slightly softer sweetness, but then also backed up with that same astringency. Less astringent, I think, than the dark variety. A little bit softer. Nice, the same kind of nice soft sweetness that the peach one had. Very consumable. It'd be easy to pop these down.
Flavor that's not so bold and doesn't get old. Up next, we have an orange flavor.
I didn't expect to like this one. This is far flung from the orange flavor that I kind of expect. It tastes to me like those canned mandarin oranges. The little, I don't know if you've ever had them. Little slices of mandarin canned in syrup. I used to devour them as a child. And this flavor reminds me of that.
I recall the plastic, I don't know if it was Lunchables. It was some kind of like prepackaged lunch thing. You drink the juice first and then eat the oranges. The little cuties that they put in there. Tangerines, yeah.
Tangerines. It's nostalgic.
It is, yeah. It's kind of nostalgic, but I taste more of the orange in this. Maybe it's the astringency. I expected it to just be like, it's orange, it's sweet, that's it. Much enjoyable.
So I think it's time to award some awards. First, let's go over prices. These guys, for 10 of them, $16. The 4-pack that contained these 4 flavors was $15, and it was 12 of them as well. And then there was one that contained these 2 flavors. Same thing, but $10.80. And then these ones were $8.48. So I think in terms of just dollar value, these ones are the best value.
But they're also the worst, and this was by far my least favorite of all of them.
I think I agree. Although I might prefer to have this to the dragon fruit. Neither one of them is going to getting an award, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, good.
But this one definitely gets the best value, even though it sucks for flavor. Best flavor.
I think it's the passion fruit and the peach for me. Those are my top 2 favorites.
All right, I think that I'm pretty close on you there. Although I would probably go for the plum and the peach. Although, and this is going to sound weird, but if I had to pick just one, I'd take the apple. Now you know, that's why we're giving awards, not, picking just one thing, because they're all very different. In terms of best texture, hands down for me, these frozen QQ.
I concur. Although the Orihiro came in pretty close to the frozen boiling point.
Best ingredients.
Best ingredients, okay.
It depends on how you're counting, I think, which is difficult. Because in terms of, if we're just considering sweeteners, then this one's got the best ingredients. Because it's just erythritol and sucralose. But if we're talking about the balance of the ingredients, then it's the Orihiro.
Yeah.
They did the flavor balance with the ingredients they used better. Even though normally I would put acesulfame potassium lower on the totem pole than something like erythritol or stevia, would be my preference. Sucralose is in all of them, so that's kind of moot. That one's really difficult to give an award for because none of them stand out as like, this one originally I thought it would because they advertise it as having erythritol and they don't tell you about the sucralose. We probably have to award a tie for best ingredients because all of them have multiple fake sweeteners in them.
Right.
And the one that has erythritol, which if it was just erythritol, I would award it.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's also sucralose. And so nobody gets it. Womp, womp.
No one gets the yeah.
No one gets best ingredients. Okay, overall nicest. The ones we like the best. Top 1, 2, and 3. Who gets the bronze medal?
Yeah. So passion fruit's 1 for me. Peach is 2. Apart from this grape and the dragon fruit, I could see any of the other ones being third place based on my mood. I'm gonna have to go with this red grape right here.
I think if I were on my own, then I might put frozen plum in the bronze. But I think that I can concur with bronze medal going to the Orihiro grape flavor. Moving on to silver, who gets second place? And I think that moving into that category, for me at least, it stays in the Orihiro as far as overall. It's really hard because the frozen texture here is great. When you're thinking about the flavor, usually the flavor trumps it. Because the textural difference, it's frozen or not frozen. I'd be tempted to throw these in a freezer, even though they tell you not to, and just try. Maybe open them first so that they don't explode. But I might personally give the silver to the apple flavor.
It's the peach for me. And then for first place, mine is the passion fruit. It's not the most interesting or complex flavor, but it's so solid that it's just like I could just go to that at any time and be immensely satisfied with it. The frozen passion fruit.
Frozen one, right. I think that if I were to consider the one that I could eat over and over again as the gold, the one that I would be happy to just pull from the freezer and chew on it, I would have to go with the frozen plum. That being said, if I didn't have a freezer, if I couldn't freeze them, I'd go with the peach as the gold. And because of that kindness, sweet softness that it has. Luckily, you don't actually have to choose because you can buy multiple. The only problem is, personally, I wouldn't buy this mix pack with the dragon fruit in it. You can get them separately, I think. So you could get a pack of the passion fruit and a pack of the plum, throw them in the freezer and just keep them there. And then just pure flavor-wise, or if you don't have a freezer, or if you want a really tiny little packet, grab one of these mix packs here and get the Orihiro just for straight flavor and tiny packetability. I mean, they're not that much smaller than these guys. They are the most expensive. So maybe price is a problem for you, then definitely go here. Stay away from this. It's fine. The only thing it really has going for it is the size. Like, it's big, but it's not as good.
Well, we did it. We ate things.
And talked about them.
And
and failed horribly at giving awards. Because you can't decide. The problem is that they're too similar.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to pick just one above the others.
We're literally comparing apples and oranges. It's just like, which do you want at any given time is the deciding factor.
And with that, we leave it up to you, dear viewers, to leave a comment if you have had any of these and let us know which one is your favorite, since we evidently can't make good decisions. And also, maybe there's one that you've had that wasn't in our roster here. I just found these on Amazon and tried to get as many as I could. But things that come from East Asia can be prohibitively expensive. And so maybe there's some hidden in your local Asian store that I didn't find. I'd be very interested in knowing what the definitive best one is that we couldn't cover. And maybe next time we can scrounge them out from some dusty cupboard somewhere and give them a try too. And I think that wraps us up. Do you have any last words?
If we were to do this test all over again, I'd probably give you completely different answers in terms of rankings. But they're all very great, and yeah, I'm super curious too to hear what other flavors there are out there. So yeah, thanks for watching.
We'll do that anyway.
I'm not a bitch. Don't question my masculinity.